Uh, Dr. Tushar Grover is our next speaker. Can you just start sharing? He is a consultant cornea, refractive and cataract services surgeon belonging to the young dynamic generation with a promising future for Vision Eye Center of New Delhi. He is going to share his excellent pearls with his video today.
Good evening. So I'd like to thank Chitra ma'am and team ARC for having me here and for the opportunity. So I'll just share my screen. I'll be just a second, please. So I'll be sharing two cases of patients who had undergone refractive surgery in the past elsewhere, and the challenges that we faced in managing them and basically in decision making and planning further. So we all know that refractive surgery is as much, if not more, about decision making than about the surgery itself. I'll be sharing two different case scenarios which made us think, and I do hope it will stimulate an interesting discussion and good learning for all of us. The first case scenario that I'll be presenting is called The Mysterious Bumps. This was a 45-year-old woman who had undergone corneal refractive surgery 15 years ago. And she now complains of headaches, which are associated with visual work, eye strain, and blurring of vision. Her refraction showed considerable anisometropia, and she's not willing for contact lenses. So we had to plan how to go ahead with recorrection for her in the right eye. When you look at the topography, this looks like an extremely good case for corneal laser vision correction by any of the methods available. But when you see her clinically, it's evident that there are multiple stromal opacities at the level of the anterior stroma, and these are in the visual axis as well. The anterior segment OCT as well demonstrates an irregular corneal surface at the level of the Bowman's layer, and this has been masked extremely well by the epithelium. Taking all of this into consideration, we decided to not touch this cornea and to proceed with the refractive lens exchange. There was, however, another challenge that awaited us. The keratometry values were quite different from the Lenstar and the Pentacam, and consequently, the IOL power that we would get from them using the Barrett True-K method. This is also visible when using the ASCRS online calculator. So I decided to ignore the Lenstar values and go with the Holiday EKR map of the Pentacam. Fortunately, we did hit the target and the patient was reading 6 parts uncorrected. This patient was extremely satisfied with her distance vision from this eye and the near vision from the other eye, which had a refractive error of -1 diopter. So the question that I would like to ask about this case is, what could have caused these irregularities? Why was the biometry so off? And would you plan a different approach than this? The next case that I'll be talking about is called Shooting in the Dark. So this was a 35-year-old woman who had undergone LASIK in 2008, has consistently been unhappy with wearing glasses, but now also has blurred vision with glasses since the last 6 months. So on examination, there is a myopic refractive error and has now developed a nucleus sclerosis grade 2 cataract as well. So choosing the procedure is absolutely not difficult here. What was surprising here, however, is that the optical biometer did not provide any measurements of keratometry. When you look at the Pentacam, what is really surprising here is how flat the cornea is. The keratometry values are close to 25 diopters in both the eyes. And even when you look at the Holiday EKR report, you see an extremely flat cornea in both the eyes. Keratometry values of about 21, 22, 23 diopters in different zones. So then we went ahead to calculate the IOL power here and entered these values into the ASCRS online calculator, as we usually do in these cases. However, the calculator refused to accept our values and asked us to check the input instead. We then realized that the lowest acceptable keratometry values for the ASCRS online calculator is 31 diopters. So we decided to calculate the IOL power with that value, and what we got was about 16.5 diopters. Now we have a difficult situation here where we know that the cornea is much flatter than we've actually entered into the calculator. So the IOL power has to be higher than what we've got. So we decided to go with an IOL power of 21 diopters in the right eye. With that, we fell a little short and had a hyperopia of 1.5 diopters post-operatively. In the left eye, we decided to go for 23 diopters, almost hit the target, but still fell a little short and had a hyperopia of 0.5 diopters. So I would like to ask the panelists, is there a more accurate way to do this, and what could have been done differently here to get better outcomes? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tushar. I would take this question, and of course, I want other panelists to chip in. For the first case, for the sake of the argument, if the patient did not have any evidence of early lens changes, 45, I think a phakic ICL would have been a better, something happier moment for her when you're stuck with your cadrometry values and your, optical biometer values. And in the second case, I would actually think of doing an aphakic refraction on the table and multiply by 1.75 and then going ahead and calculating the IOI power as a better approach. This was more of a guess game. You really did very well in both your cases, but it's just my thoughts.
I agree with you, Chitra. I would do a two-step procedure. I would put an IOL at a later date once you have a better idea in an aphakic environment. Because this was too flat. And the eggshell length was also too long. It was almost 33, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely would wait and do a refraction on an aphakic patient.
24, yeah. Wonderful.
The first case could be because of a viral keratitis.
Yes, but it was bilateral, ma'am. And
so bilateral also is possible with adenovirus.
Yeah, could be.
Probably it was that.
Dr. Namrata, your thoughts?
It did look classically adenoviral because the opacities are kind of concentrated more at one place, and they tend to be, not so central, but paracentral. But Tushar, very good presentation, very difficult cases, I must say. It's always a challenge when the surgeries, refractive surgeries have been done 15 years ago and 8 years ago. One, to guess what has been done, and two, to have the remodeling and the healing response, how it is going to behave. And then three, to actually come out with the options. So I think a very well managed case. You were really lucky with the second case that you did hit at plus 1.5 and 0.5. But I just wanted to know that when it was coming as 16 and a half, and what made you think that, you would go in for a higher power, and how did you calculate that this much high I have to?
That was because we had entered values of keratometry which were about 5 diopters steeper than what we actually were. So we expected a refractive, if you correlate a refractive outcome of about 1 diopter corresponding with 1 diopter of keratometry, it was a very approximate measure that we would need to go higher with the IOL power, which in our case, we went with about 5 diopters higher than what the calculator was showing us. So it was based on that, but we realized that we were a little short with the right eye, and then with the other eye, we knew that we could get a little closer, but we also were not very short, and we went with about 2 diopters higher and still had a slight hyperopia, though almost we hit the target based on that.
Wonderful video, Sushant. A lot of learning for us.